We have a 4-game NBA DFS slate on Monday, and I'm about to breaking it down right here. If you're looking for football content for Monday Night Football, I've also got that up on the YouTube channel. The only thing that I ask of you as you're watching this free content, like, follow, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It helps keep our content free. And if you want to sign up for our NBA package, which includes our Sims tool and contest generator, use the link below to sign up. Now, let's go ahead and look at my top projected lineups for the day, starting with this top lineup here, which has a pretty bit of a gap here in terms of simulated ROI over my next best projected lineup. It is Malik Monk, OG Anunoby, Zach LaVine, Danilo Gallinari, Daniel Gafford, Donovan Mitchell, Bobby Portis, Jakob Poeltl. So that is my best projected lineup for the night. Some injury news that we should be keeping an eye on as well, especially because he is in this number one projected lineup for me. OG Anunoby is listed as questionable for today. If he's in, I suspect it's going to mean that he's under-owned because he's questionable on the injury report. But if he is out, well, that's going to open up some extra value for the Toronto Raptors, especially when you consider that Gary Trent Jr. is also listed as questionable on the injury report, in addition to how we have Alex Caruso questionable from the Bulls. So these aren't the biggest name players in the world that are on the injury report. OG Anunoby is definitely the one who's most significant, but we have to keep in mind that with it only being a 4-game slate, any player that's ruled out, anybody that has some slight pricing value, is going to become much more important on a 4-game slate than they might be on like a 10-game slate or something like that. So keep an eye out for those 3 players for sure. If we go ahead and look at the player exposures now, I'm going to go position by position, and that'll help us identify who the core players are that we want to be getting to in lineups today. Starting at point guard, where we have Malik Monk, Scotty Barnes, Keon Ellis, Dennis Schroeder, Derek White, Kobe White, and then Darius Garland. All of these guys here are projected to be in 20+% of my lineup. So I'm getting a lot of point guard exposure, a lot of lineups being built around point guard. So guard spots, seems like those are going to be more point guards for me than on shooting guards. And then the utility spot also looks like it's going to be loaded with point guard because, you know, only 4 games on this slate. I've got all this exposure to all these point guards here. Scotty Barnes, probably the easiest one to get to across the slate just because he's point guard and small forward eligibility. So that's great positionality. But then also, he's only projected for 16.8% ownership. So Scotty Barnes looks like a really good contrarian play for tonight's slate. If we look at the players who I'm underweight to with point guard eligibility, underweight to Drew Holiday, underweight to Landry Shamet, also underweight to Kobe White. Even though Kobe White was a player who I had in 20+% of lineups, he's projected for 30% ownership. So slightly underweight to him there. Shooting guards. Shooting guard building around Malik Monk, who we also talked about a second ago at point guard, and then also OG Anunoby, Zach LaVine, Derek White. So of these guys, Anunoby, we're going to have to, once again, pay attention to that injury report to see if he's in or out. But right now, he's only projected for 18% ownership. Derek White only projected for 15%. So for 4-game slate, those are, you know, somewhat contrarian-ish type plays that I'm getting overweight to. Underweight to at the shooting guard position, underweight to Kevin Huerter, underweight to Drew Holiday, and also underweight to Jaylen Brown and Corey Kispert. Small forward core options. Only a couple of them here. Scotty Barnes, Zach LaVine, and Scotty Barnes also point guard eligibility, Zach LaVine shooting guard. So small forward spot kind of sucks today. Not a lot of these players making it into my player pool. Obviously, we have to play at least one small forward in every lineup, but it looks like the forward spot for me is going to be more taken up by power forwards than small forwards, and then really no small forwards going to the utility spot. And then if you look at all the players that I'm underweight to here at the small forward spot, underweight to Denny Avdia, underweight to DeMar DeRozan, underweight to Koulibaly. So these are a handful of guys that are projected for, you know, fairly substantial ownership that I'm just nowhere close to the field. 23% Avdia, 24% DeRozan, 17% Koulibaly that the field is playing, and I have them all 8% or less in my lineups. Power forwards. Our forward core options for me here, getting to a ton of Danilo Gallinari, and this is definitely subject to change if more value ends up opening up, but since Gallinari is fairly cheap, it's a 4-game slate, and we don't have a lot of players that are ruled out as of now. That's how you end up with something like Danilo Gallinari being in north of half of my lineups here. If we start seeing, you know, Gary Trent Jr. and OG Anunoby both ruled out, well, then there's other value plays, and then I get substantially less of Gallo. As of now, though, not the case, and it's not like we even haven't projected it. We don't have him projected crazy high, only projecting him for 17.4 fantasy points. That was still enough for him to wind up in 62% of my lineups. Also getting to a bunch of Evan Mobley and Pascal Siakam at the power forward spot. Although with that said, Evan Mobley, I am underweight to him. He's only in 20% of my lineups, and he's projected for 29% ownership, but pretty big stands on Gallo and Mobley in these lineups for me. Underweight to Avdia and DeMar DeRozan once again, both of them with the small forward and power forward eligibility. Underweight to Pascal Siakam, so he's projected for 29% ownership. I have 21%. But if Anunoby doesn't play, I do expect I'd be closer to that 30% range on Pascal Siakam. And then Keegan Murray, also slightly underweight to him when he's in 14.7% of my lineups and projected for 21.2% ownership. Centers. And lots of centers popping up here. Daniel Gafford, Evan Mobley, Jakob Poeltl, Jared Allen. These are all players that I have 43+% of in my lineups, and none of them are projected for too crazy of ownership. Allen at 30%, certainly popular, but I mean, these other guys, 25% Mobley, even though he's power forward and center eligible. Jakob Poeltl, 15%. Gafford, 18%, and still getting north of 40%. So some big stands being made by the Sims here at the center spot, and then underweight to, once again, Siakam, underweight to Domantas Sabonis, and underweight to Mitchell Robinson as well. So that's an overview of everything that we're looking at tonight for DraftKings. If you guys could do me a favor, if you're not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want more information on tonight's NBA slate, watch the deep dive and live before lock. I'll be on live before lock with Eric Lindquist from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you guys then, and good luck tonight.